going to have a look at PermaNotes. That's PermaNotes.app. And this decentralized app built on Arweave is built by Tom Wilson, who has been an amazing contributor in the community and was just featured on the PermaWeb Pioneers podcast. So have a look at the PermaWeb Pioneers podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and listen to Tom Wilson to learn more about him, his story, and what he's building with PermaNotes and beyond. All right, so we're on the landing page of PermaNotes. And I just want to be clear before we even dive in, this is an alpha. So this is still very early on. Tom has done an amazing amount of work in just about a month or so to get to this point. So just want to give a shout out and recognize the work Tom has done. Now, in this exploration, I'm going to be providing some feedback, some thoughts, some ideas, and may do a second segment where I propose some concepts and designs and so on that address some of the things that I notice or comment on in this video. All right, so landing here on the homepage, obviously it's pretty basic. Again, obviously an alpha stage. Regardless, I think it's interesting to talk about it a bit. There is a learn more here, of course, which is really nice. I don't even want to go into that yet because I think there's an opportunity to share a little bit more about what PermaNotes is right away. So I don't have to click any buttons to find out what it is. Now, to be fair, PermaNotes is pretty self-explanatory, and create, store, and share are also pretty self-explanatory. I think something like, store notes permanently on Arweave, or something like that can go quite a ways in just orienting what this is and why it's important. Now, let's dive in a little bit and check out Learn More. So this is just awesome. So this is a really great post that Tom has put together. And this is the line that I think can possibly exist right on that landing page. PermaNotes is a decentralized application that allows you to create notes that will be accessible forever using the PermaWeb. Now, these are great details, and I encourage you to read through them. He's done a great job of exploring what the PermaNotes app does, and also even providing a bit of a roadmap here, which is just really cool. So let's get back to the landing page. And then down here in the bottom left, there is this little icon, kind of sticker almost, embed. And one thing I've noticed is on higher resolution displays, the permanent on Arweave is pixelated. So I'm not sure if this is an SVG. I haven't looked in the developer tools to check out what that file is. The recommendation here is, use like an SVG or some sort of higher quality image to represent that. And that may be something that the Arweave team isn't providing, or I'm not exactly sure because I haven't embedded one of those yet on any of my sites at the moment. It is really cool that it's here, and so let's take a look and check this out. Again, really great display. Love how clean and fresh it is. And then obviously it gets into the details of what the PermaWeb is. Has some reference, and also something that's really cool is it actually shows you the Arweave transactions for the deployments. And this is a really important thing because you can actually go and click into any one of these and it'll load up that version of PermaNotes, a massive feature of Arweave in the PermaWeb. What you'll see here is he's actually using a URL that's easy to read, unlike these, which is coming through the gateway and show the transaction, everything like that, ID. So this is a really cool thing, and I think something that can be utilized more in the ecosystem to, show version history, and maybe there's even developer notes. If you're in the Apple App Store or something like that, there can be little notes that, share, okay, well, in this version, you can do this and you can't do that. And this is a great way as we build out the PermaWeb of enabling individuals to even favor, like favorite deployments, and some deployments will become more popular. You can have your favorite deployments listed in some sort of marketplace or something. Anyways, this just opens up a lot of cool opportunities for what the ecosystem can do to enable the individual that's utilizing the dApp to have more of that control, which is a really important pillar within the ecosystem. So big shout out to Tom to add this deployment history. I think it does a lot and says a lot about his intentions and the possibilities of the PermaWeb. All right, so we're gonna connect our Connect app. All right, so there's two options here. That's great. I like the display here. I think, obviously this is an alpha state regardless. Let's just have some fun. These gray backgrounds, looks like these are probably transparent PNGs or something like that. Um, you know, I think probably adding like a white background or at least just centering these images within there can go a long way. And then there's a little bit of like a fidgeting kind of interaction there on the hover state. Uh, I really like this as far as helping out. This can probably be left justified, getting pretty specific, just to make it a little bit cleaner. And I think it's just really nice to have more information and provide assistance at these steps because it is so early. All right, so I'm gonna click on R Connect, and this will bring me over to log in with my wallet. So I will do that. All right, so after you add your password for your RConnect in this situation, you'll notice the permissions that come up. And these are just options that RConnect provides in the developer suite of what a developer can ask for in your permissions settings. So you can, obviously read through these. I think it's really important. These are kind of like almost terms of service, even though they're not. They kind of are in some regard. Um, so I'm okay with these permissions, so I'm going to leave them checked and I'm going to accept that. All right, so now we're connecting to PermaNotes and here we are. So I really like this little detail here. For whatever reason, it just feels really nice. I like that profile um, shows up and you got your name here and then your little description. So I think this is a really nice launching point. However, I do think that on this page, there's a possibility of sliding this up and then just having the notes appear because, it can just reduce another click and then keep all of this right in that initial portal as you log in. Um, I'm not totally sure how to get back to that through navigation. I think maybe I go to accounts. Yeah. So, I think this is fine. And again, I really like this little feature here of the profile. I do think that having this account kind of be displaying notes and stuff can just be really nice. Um, One thing that's really cool about the account is that, from my understanding, this is actually utilizing the account protocol built by the MetaWeave team. So just because I logged in with this wallet, it knows that this is the only Arweave wallet, and it brings in these profile details, which is just really cool and a big nod to the composability of the ecosystem. So another big shout out, Tom, for adding the account protocol. All right, so we're going to dive in and check out my notes. So there are a few posts that have been written here. What's really cool about PermaNotes is that you can actually upload GIFs and media and stuff like that using Markdown, which is pretty dang cool. Now, one thing I want to dig into here is the information that is available on the screen or on the post page rather. So there's fork and there's like a like or a favorite. Fork is definitely a term that is very much so used in the kind of coding programming world, much less common outside of that. So I think for someone that's coming outside of the kind of GitHub world, this word is probably going to be pretty confusing. And so maybe, maybe a word for that can be maybe more appropriate for this is remix, or something like that. Because what happens here when you do that is you actually get a copy of what was previously written, so you can do an update to it. Um, so, anyways, I think there's another word out there that can be more appropriate. The first word that comes to mind is possibly remix, and leave comments if you think there's another word that's more appropriate. That's just one idea. The other thing here is we have the info button. Now, the info button is interesting because basically it shows the title, and also who it's by and who posted it via that account, and then the date of creation and things like that. Now, one thing that I personally think that can be done here is basically to not hide that information, to show it and display it. And also another big thing here is this is a share button. So sharing obviously is really, really important to the network growth. And this will bring you over to Twitter and formulate a nice tweet to share with the world, which is really awesome. Like that's a great, great thing. It's just you want to have that share button really, really front and center. So like if it's remix and then share, something like that, you want to make sure that the share is front and center, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, just some thoughts there. I don't think all that information needs to be hidden, and it can come forward a bit. All right, so let's go back to the notes and let's check out. All right, so the loading state there, which we'll go back. The loading state is pretty fast, really. I mean, this is all built on Arweave here. One thing to note is like there's this preview of the background kind of layout, and ideally, again, tiny detail. However, it is fun to explore. That that is just a blank kind of state instead of having the distinction of that page. Can possibly make for a little bit of a nicer loading experience in general. As far as the modal, I personally think that modal loading state can probably just disappear, and it can just be like a flat loading state as the page is being loaded. And there's some fun things that can be done there. It can be simple quotes about long-term thinking, or something related to writing or something like that, to have some fun with the loading state and lean into the loading state, as opposed to kind of making it a pop-up experience, which many individuals kind of have a averse reaction to a pop-up in that modal format. So just some thoughts there. If we go through that loading state again, it's pretty subtle and small. I just think it can kind of tie things together a little bit more. All right, so then there's this favorites. Apparently, I don't have any favorites as of yet. What's cool about the favorites is, you know, like when you like something, like I really like this post. I think it's great. So I'm gonna favorite this, and when I do that, let's see, I just clicked it, and for whatever reason, I'm not getting any feedback on this. Um, and from what I understand, Tom actually wrote out a little like protocol to enable this type of feature. Now, for whatever reason, on that click, it didn't go through. So part of this Arweave Explorer is actually, to utilize these things. And for some reason, I was disconnected. So it looks like I have to reconnect for whatever reason. And then I'm going to go back in here and let's see what happens. All right, so for some reason, I'm unable to like, oh, okay. All right, it did go through. I saw the kind of little Arweave bubbles in the bottom right-hand corner. However, I'm okay, then all right. So one thing here is it's difficult, right? Because we're waiting for the transaction to be uploaded to the permaweb, and there's some latency there, and that's kind of just the state of things right now. So managing that state between the action and the final state of it being on the permaweb is a challenge. Now, there's a possibility of, like, when that is clicked, maybe there's a little note or something that indicates that it will be uploaded to the permaweb. Like, one idea, and this is just a playful thing, is like I tap it, and then that heart is the actual progress of it. So I imagine it has to guess a little bit because it can't be totally spot on. The point is like you tap that, and maybe the heart is like filling up. So that there's something going on, because I thought there was like a bug. I thought something wasn't happening, and in actuality, it was occurring. I just didn't have any indication that it was. So filling up that heart, I think, can be a cool way to do that. And it also provides that opportunity where that in-between state is a part of the experience. Because everything on the permaweb is really significant. Favoriting or liking something like that is really significant because it's going on the permaweb. This is a different interaction. This isn't like a link rot situation where things can disappear in a few years. This is going to the permaweb. So anyways, leaning into that in-between state, I think, is a really, really cool opportunity for these interactions to make it more of an experience. Like, wow, you're pressing something into the permaweb. Let's make that a really important thing, and lean into that as much as possible. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do here is create a note. And before we do that, I just want to make this feature known. This is really cool. So you can actually subscribe to particular topics. And Tom has put a lot of work into creating like this subscription protocol, as I understand it. And you create these, hashtag categories and so on, and then you can actually subscribe to them. So if someone's, got an Arweave hashtag, then you can check out all of the Arweave posts that are tagged with that and follow along, which is just a great feature. I mean, it's one of those things that is built into PermaNotes and provides some great opportunities for discovery, which a platform like this, it's just so important. All right, so let's go and create a note. Actually, one second, let's check out our favorites. All right, so that's cool. So our favorite actually has arrived here, and it shows the title. I think, like, if it's possible, it'd be really cool to have like the title and then just a one line description. I don't know, 180 characters or whatever, about what that is, and then in addition to that, a share button, right? Because like this is all about growing the discoverability, growing awareness of PermaNotes. So adding a share button there, I think, can go a really long way in bringing more individuals into it. And by the way, I mean, this is all like my favorites, right? So I'm probably more compelled to share, and I want an easy button to share wherever I can. So this is actually a cool portal into sharing highly curated information about the things that I like. And then in addition to that, you know I want to share my favorites with everyone. And so, having that ability to share all of my favorites at once, and that this page being my curated permanotes that I really want to share, I think that can be a really cool thing. So just leaning into that sharing, I think, can be really nice to expand the awareness and utilization of this amazing app and service. All right, now let's see, and let's create a new note. So one thing I've noticed is when you create a new note for whatever reason, another note information appears, and ideally this is just a blank canvas. So that's just another note for Tom, the developer, and just a little detail that makes it just a little bit nicer to add new content. All right, so you can make your title and description and everything like that. Now, this is all in Markdown. You can check out some guides for writing with Markdown. It's pretty straightforward. However, you kind of do need to get acquainted with it, and there's some resources on how to write with Markdown. So here's a little guide on your basic syntax for Markdown. Anyways, it looks kind of like this. You can use a bunch of different kind of hashtags, numbers of hashtags that represents, different heading sizes, H1, things like that, if you're familiar with HTML at all. And then it tells you how to manage links, exclamation point and all this and that. So it's pretty intuitive. It does require a little bit of just using it to get it. So there is a little bit of a learning curve on that end as you write out your posts. So I'm going to write out a post and then we'll check back in and post it up to the PermaWeb. We are back and I've written a post here and you can see that markdown that I was referring to. And it's basically just, yeah, just check out those resources and you'll get it. It's pretty dang simple. All right. So we have this post. You'll see that this is an Arweave image and there's some cool features here. You can preview it. You can have this split screen view so you can check out how things look. You can check out your links, make sure you're all good to go. One thing you'll notice here is that in the split screen view, for whatever reason, it doesn't actually format properly. And then here, you can go full screen and then you'll notice there's a bit of a fragment here of what was happening on the other page. So something needs to be sorted on that front. This looks good. And yeah, so those are just some little items for PermaNotes to sort out. Again, it's an alpha stage, so totally get it. It's also good to find these things. So generally speaking, the experience is pretty solid. There's a few things that I learned through experience, which was really fun. So this is obviously an Arweave image. Now, if I go to that URL via the gateway, you'll see the actual image on the PermaWeb, which is really, really cool. Now, how did I do that? Well, one thing here is, tapping on an image. When you tap on this image, what it'll do is just add this little kind of snippet of Markdown. And then what you need to do is you need to add your image through a URL. Now, in an ideal situation, or something that may be ideal, you tap on that image and it just allows you to upload the image to the PermaWeb right here. Now the way I did it, which is also works of course, is I went over to Arweave and logged in and then uploaded my file to the PermaWeb and via Arweave. And Arweave is a great service. If you're not familiar with them, definitely go and check them out. Sign up. Anyways, so that's what I did with this particular image. And one thing I also did is actually compress the image using this thing called TinyPNG. So if you're using these types of files, you can actually compress your files, which will basically save the network, some storage, and it just increases the efficiency of the upload. So it's kind of nice. All right, so that's one thing. That's one thing that kind of jumped out at me as an opportunity to experience, increase the overall experience and just make it more fluid. And then another thing that I kind of noticed is like I wanted to reference another note on PermaNotes. So it might be kind of cool. I'm not exactly sure how it can work. This works totally fine as well, where one can, quickly access the other posts or other posts in PermaNotes to link to them and to create like a special little tag for that for that link. Like this is a post on PermaNotes, so maybe there's like a little, I don't know, P or something like that that denotes that it's another link within PermaNotes. So that's just another thought that came to mind while doing this. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna upload to the PermaWeb via PermaNotes, which is pretty dang cool. I love that there's an autosave feature. That's great. I like that there's a word count. Those details are just really nice and professional. Now, this here is really interesting. So by default, it is encrypted. So this is basically saying encrypted. So one of the things I think that can be really cool is like maybe there's like a lock symbol here or something like that, or maybe it says, you know, I don't know, encrypted. And this notice is really important for obvious reasons. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to make this public. Now, one thing that also might be a nice thing is instead of it saying create note, if I change it to publish, maybe this button needs to say publish note. And if it's off, then it's just create note. Another way just to signify what state I'm going to be publishing this in, because this is obviously really, really, really important. If someone publishes a private note, that's a big problem. So just a few other thoughts there. So I'm going to make this public, and I also think that this can be maybe a little bit more obvious when it's on. It's like public, and you know that you're going to be making this public. Really, really important. Make it totally obvious. All right. So let's create this note. All right. We have a little modal. Only take a few seconds. All right. So we just had that interaction down there. And that might be an opportunity to state kind of what is going on. Again, leaning into the loading state as an opportunity. Now, I love this minting. That's a great, just kind of update that makes me feel good. Like I know that something is in the works. And as that mints, another thing I noticed is there's only like 50 characters allowed for the title and something similar for the description, and I felt that pretty limiting. Now this might be by design and on purpose. um, Generally I think it's a little bit challenging to get the proper voicing in only 50 characters, not 50 words, 50 characters. So possibly extending that to like 150 characters or 200 characters, something like that, may be nice to kind of express oneself a little bit more thoroughly. I do like the clean look of the shorter titles, so I don't know if that was totally deliberate or not. Um, just something that I noticed as well. So we'll come back once that is minted and see what it looks like with our newly updated or newly published PermaNote. We're back, and as you can see, the new note titled Arweave Explorer has been posted on the PermaWeb via PermaNotes, which is really, really great. Now, one thing I noticed is I actually had to refresh to see that it went from minting to view. Now, I totally get that, and it's a fine thing. Now, if it's possible to actually have that state change just occur on the page, then that's a bonus. Otherwise, um, totally get it, and it works. So let's have a look at our note. There's that modal, and here we are. So this image is actually on the PermaWeb, and here are titles and paragraphs here and our links. So this will go to that initial Arweave Grow Crew initial permanotes. We got the YouTube link, and of course, onlyarweave.com. So that is a wrap for this session of Arweave Explorer. It's been really, really fun to check out PermaNotes.app. Tom Wilson's doing a great job building this out. And of course, leave your feedback in the comments. Reach out, connect, and explore the permaweb. And share your learnings, share your thoughts with the developer, share your thoughts with us. Love to hear your perspective. And always, reach out.